Here we go. Big Jeff.
Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel.
Good morning, beautiful people. And thank you very much for joining us on our fourth podcast in the series entitled Stephen Avery, His Life and Time. My name is Dr. Silkman, and joining us today on our podcast team are the following people. We have Bibi, Big Jeff, Kelly, Christy Lynn, Lily, Millbilly, Zoe, and Sammy. And guys, before we start, all of us would like to thank you very much for all of your support in the podcast that we have done so far. And we thank and value all of your comments that you have provided for us. And we hope that through these podcast series, we can learn a little bit more about the case. And so if you remember in our last podcast, what we did is that we finished looking at the investigation that was done by the Attorney General, Peg L. And we all know what the outcome was. Essentially, there was no one to blame. No one was at fault. And so we now commence. Oh, by the way, guys, is there anyone who would like to make a comment just quickly about the results of Peg L's investigation? Big Jeff, would you like to make a comment?
I'd like to remind everyone that the Peg L pointed the finger more at Penny Bernstein than she did at anybody else in law enforcement.
An excellent point. Bibi.
Nothing. It's just to blame the victim is just ridiculous.
Yes. Anyone else, guys, that would like to make a comment? Okay. Yes, that was actually quite surprising and quite shocking, if I could just summarize it very quickly. Ultimately, the report basically pointed the finger at the victim because, according to the report, it was the victim who picked out Stephen Avery. And so essentially, they washed their hands of any type of fault and wrongdoing on behalf of the MTSO. So, guys, if we start with slide 51, you can clearly see that Stephen Avery had had enough. Clearly, people were expecting some type of result, something to cause concern for the authority, for the MTSO, but they all got away scot-free. So Stephen Avery instigated a civil lawsuit in which he was seeking damages and compensation for up to 36 million. Now, guys, is there any comments about this? Who would like to make a comment? Big Jeff.
Yeah, I'd also like to remind everyone that this was a very political, very much a political football, if you will, in Wisconsin at the time, and there was also activity in the state legislature.
Yes.
Perhaps politically motivated, where people were, certain representatives were attempting to make legislation and come up with a dollar value that they felt that he
yes
would be appropriate, but that added, perhaps this certainly would have been newsworthy in and of itself.
Yes,
really have as a firestorm brewing, right? A powder keg about to
explode. Millbilly.
And after he took out his lawsuit, they wanted him to give the money he was going to be receiving back because they felt that the taxpayers shouldn't be paying for what the county did.
Yes. An excellent point. Excellent point. Guys, anybody else would like to make a comment? Now, I think it's pretty obvious that, and we'll discuss this, whereas that $36 million was a lot of money, especially for Wisconsin, we all know what the undertones were all about. It wasn't just about the money. Guys, would you agree with that? Who would like to make a comment?
Oh,
Billy.
100%. It was more than the. They're going to lose their reputations, their pensions, everything. They were going to be personally liable.
Yes. Okay. So is it true that the insurance company for the county was not going to pay for the civil suit?
Correct. And Tom Kirk tried to get his home insurance to pay for it.
Right. Okay. Big Jeff.
I was just laughing at that comment that he actually tried to do that.
Yes. Christy Lynn, do you have a comment about the lawsuit?
Nope. Millbilly pretty much said what I was going to say.
Okay. All right. So basically, I think we all agree that, yes, $36 million was a lot of money, but it was the oncoming tsunami that really was going to cause a lot of damage to the county. So, guys, Millbilly, a comment.
Well, we're going to get to this, but it was going to fall solely on two people.
Yes. Yes.
Kirk and Vogel.
And Vogel and the DA. Yep, for sure. All right, guys. So if we have a look at slide number 52, you can see, now I remember when I saw this picture in MAM, before this photograph was taken, Sheriff Kusurik was absolutely laughing like a 2-year-old. He was smiling from head to toe. And would anyone want to give an explanation why Kusurik was so happy? Who would like to comment? Oh, no one would like to comment. All right, then. Well, we'll continue. As you can see, our reports were starting to come out with some pretty strong words against the sheriff. For example, personal hostility, targeting Stephen Avery, obstruction of justice. They're pretty strong words. And of course, if we have a look at slide 53, we can see some of the people that were called up for the depositions. Now, does anyone know whether there were more than these people that were called up? Millbilly, do you know?
Yeah, there was about 30 people that were depositioned in this case. Went to the place.
Right, that were called up for a deposition. All right. Now, what is remarkable when these individuals were called up? Now, unfortunately, as fate would have it, the last two individuals, the sheriff and the DA, of course, were not called up for the depositions because something happened, a major event happened between October 26th and November the 10th. Guys, what was that major event? Big Jeff.
Teresa Hallback goes missing.
Yeah. Okay, and we'll discuss that in a minute. Does anyone else have any comments? All right, so it's pretty clear that a lot of the major players were called up for the deposition. And what struck me was all of a sudden, a lot of these individuals had developed amnesia. They couldn't remember. They forgot recollections, they'd forgotten discussions. But the amazing thing is, the investigator who was questioning them had their own depositions in front of them. Millbilly, have you got a comment?
Well, out of everybody that's pictured here, Link is the only one that had nothing to do with this original case.
Yes.
He was only brought in because what Colburn said about what he had to do with Kirk, Link was there.
Yes. Yes.
So
Amazing.
Colburn
Yeah.
pretty much threw everybody under the bus.
Yeah.
And then they all started the old Couchet and Peterson. They both pretty much stuck to their guns, but
Correct. Christy Lynn. Oh, sorry, Billy. Continue.
Dvorak, she kept out all those. That's not my wording. That's not my verbiage. I wouldn't say it like that.
It was absolutely mind-blowing how her own words, she just refused to state that she said those particular words and in that particular manner. Christy, do you have any comments?
Yes, I think Millbilly and I are sharing the same brain this morning, because I was just going to comment on Dvorak. That was one of the hardest things for me to watch her. You can tell she's searching her brain. How do I answer
Yes.
this? How do I not answer this? How do I get away with, you can totally tell that she is trying to find the easiest way out of what she's going to say.
Correct.
The long pauses. It was. She made me angry. She made me one of the most angry in all of the depositions.
Well, actually, with Judy Dvorak, of course, what she said to Penny.
Correct.
And that triggered a disastrous pathway. Sorry, Christy, continue.
Oh no, that's you took the words out of my mouth. We're here because of her. We're here because of what she said to her friend that night. That
is correct. It was truly amazing. I know that the DA, he was extremely nervous, very fidgety. He knew he was in deep trouble. Lily, do you have any comments?
Well, I just wanted to say that I've never seen people act so, I cannot believe you're questioning me.
Correct.
It just blows my mind. But also another thing I wanted to was thinking about the other day.
Yes, Lily.
Why did Brown County call the jail? Why did they not call the sheriff's department or whatever the enforcement was over there that would deal with something like that? Why would they call where they house the criminals?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I understand that.
Christy, do you have any comments about that?
I do. Wasn't it the Brown County Jail that called the jail? I mean, speaking from how do I want to word this? I would probably start by calling the exact same kind of department I work for in the other county. You know what I mean? So if I work in the jail, I would call the other county jail and say, "Hey, this is what I have. Who do I need to talk to over there?" Do you know what I mean?
The Brown County Sheriff's Department contacted the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department and talked to Colburn. He took the info down, was supposed to transfer the call, but he doesn't remember if it went through.
I have my own theory on that, but we'll talk about that later.
We will.
Involves Colburn and Peterson.
Yes, we will. Bibi, do you have a comment?
Well, no, not really. Just that, yeah. You would have thought there would have been follow through after they called the jail.
Yes.
The responsible thing would have been for them.
There was a follow through. Right, the day after Stephen Avery was released from prison.
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean a timely follow through.
It's just like we'll get into that later.
We will. Yeah, we will. But the comment I'd like to make was when they questioned Sandra Morris, you could tell that she was in a very bad situation and state, because when they read back her statement, she flatly denied stating all these accusations that she said against Stephen. I don't remember saying that. I never said that. And you wonder, when you consider how Stephen's life turned drastically, it turned drastically for what he did with his cousin, Sandra Morris. And if you notice in the Peg L report, do they actually ever state that Sandra Morris was related to Stephen? Does anyone remember?
They did not in the Peg-Yell report, no.
Correct. They kept it very impersonal. And didn't they also give the impression that it was sexually motivated? A sexually motivated attack?
They specifically state that Vogel assumed it was sexually motivated, and they identify Sandra as a sheriff deputy's wife. That's how they identify her.
Yeah, but they arrested him for attempted murder, and even the cop that arrested him, when Kirk orders him to do a rape, he questioned, like, why am I doing this?
Yes.
Like, they were being very secretive of what was actually transpiring.
Yes. Unbelievable. But to me, I don't know about you guys and our listeners as well. The thing which was remarkable was Jean Couchet, who actually didn't care what the investigator was telling him. He was dead certain that his diagram, the drawing that he drew, was more reliable and more accurate than DNA. And Big Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he actually state that DNA evidence could be faked?
That's exactly what he said.
I mean, is anyone here surprised by hearing that?
It almost sets the table for the rest of what we're going to be talking about in the entire podcast.
It does. In fact, it is quite shocking to state something like that during the depositions, that DNA evidence could be fake. Is it possible that that was a Freudian slip? What made him say something like that? Who's got a comment? Big Jeff.
Well, he was obviously saying that in the context of Avery's DNA being excluded from the pubic hair found in the Gregory Allen case.
Yes.
The way that he said it so quick, and with such surety.
Yes.
He had experience with it.
Yes.
It could be faked. I do it all the time.
Yes. Yes, they can. And Bibi, you've got a comment?
No, it's just laughable. It's completely laughable. Yes,
it is.
And that would be the first thing to pop out of his mouth like that. It's just,
yes. But the amazing thing, guys, is the brashness of Jean Couchet. He actually didn't care at all. And guys, is it true that no one from the MTSO offered an apology to Stephen Avery? Christy, have you got a comment?
I do. I don't believe anybody ever apologized to him at all. But with Jean Couchet, that one comment that he makes is so smug, and he doesn't even realize how badly he digs himself a little deeper into that hole when he says something to the effect of, well, I think my sketch looks more like Stephen Avery than Gregory Allen. No kidding.
Yes.
No kidding. That's the whole point. That's why we're here, dude. That's why we're here. He's very smug. He's very crass. He's very
nonchalant.
He framed it and hung it on his wall. He framed it.
You're correct. And the investigator actually said to him, "You're correct. It does look like Stephen Avery." And it was so funny because Couchet thought, I think I've said something wrong here, because the investigator agreed with him. So it was truly remarkable. The attitude of these people was truly remarkable, from total denial to amnesia.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
If you notice with Colburn, his answers were very, very brief. He never expanded on anything. Do you think that was a deliberate ploy?
Absolutely.
If you're feeling guilty and you're afraid that something's pointed at you, you don't want to give away any extra information that you don't have to. I'm sure that's what he would have been advised by any lawyer.
Correct. Correct. So it's the information that you withhold that potentially could be very damaging. And you keep your mouth shut and everything should be fine. Christy, do you have a comment?
You can go to Zoe first. You can come back to me after Zoe. She's ready to talk.
Zoe, do you have a comment?
I don't like it when you call me out, you beast.
Now look. Now look, Zoe, you don't want me to call my girlfriend in, do you? You don't want me to call my... I tell you what. All right, guys. Now
I wanted to say something about Jean earlier, but you didn't want me to call. You didn't want to call me out. So,
all right.
Although he's a dirty man and everything, he made comments that like he was trying to tell something about the department, like when he was demoted in 1985 by Tom Kasurek, and Gene's response to Kasurek was, "Tom, tagged on your department was the ability to smile at somebody's face while you stab him in the back." And it was like he was talking about something that's not known, and that he's trying to tell everybody something, and that's exactly what happened in Stephen's case.
Yes. Chris, do you have a comment on that? Thank you, Zoe.
Yeah, I want to go back to Colburn for a moment, and you say his comments or his answers are very short.
Yes.
Peterson too, a little bit. If you go back into Colburn's personnel file, he was denied position.
Oh, we're sounding like a robot. Let's hope our connection improves.
So if you look at Colburn's personnel record, you see that he applied for positions and Kenneth Peterson denied him. And if you line up when the call from Brown County came in, all of a sudden Colburn gets a promotion.
That's
Colburn was given that promotion to keep his mouth shut, and he's now testifying, and he is scared to death about what he is going to say, because I really believe that he is the one who holds the key to everything that went wrong from November 3rd to today.
Oh, for sure, 100%, and I'm going to prove that.
Okay, I would love to prove that.
Fantastic.
That would be awesome. Good luck.
Kelly, do you have a comment?
I don't have a comment. I just want to have a bit of a chuckle when Christy said he holds the key to everything. I could almost say, he does. He sure enough held that key, didn't he? Literally.
He hid it under the slippers.
Yes. The irony is, probably watched a bit of WWF. The way he handled the bedside cabinet, he almost shook it to pieces. But hold your horses. We'll be talking about that coming up for sure. Millbilly, do you have an additional comment?
I was just verifying what she said. Colburn applied to be a sheriff multiple times and was denied every time. And then out the blue, we're offering you a job.
Yep. It really was. It appeared to be a job for the boys mentality, a closed club. There must have been unwritten rules that you towed the line, you got rewarded for certain things, or you got punished for certain things. But one thing that's remarkable was the unilateral hatred for Stephen Avery. Guys, would you agree with that? Big Jeff.
Yeah, most definitely. And so if I could backtrack for 1 second and ask Billy or Christy this question. Colburn must have been promoted again, right? Because he was shift commander at the time.
Yes. Well, during the Ricky Hodge, Michael Bushman was actually the dispatch.
Yes.
So eventually Colburn got Michael Bushman.
Yes.
Because in 2004, Bushman was a detective, or he was a captain, follow-up officer. He's the one that In 2004, Stephen Avery's sister's blazers get stolen and found burning.
And a fire,
and
yes.
After the whole investigation's done, Michael Bushman is the follow-up, does the final analysis, does a summary report for the thing. Well,
yes.
The case is still open on Stephen Avery's record.
The car.
The 2004 fire.
The fire. It's still open. Oh, my Lord.
He has an alibi. Everybody does, but two people.
Yes, but we all know how important alibis are, right? It didn't help Stephen with 16 in the Penny case. So that's very, very interesting. All right, guys. Bibi, do you have a comment?
Just alibis never seem to help Steve, no matter how many people there are.
Correct. And the disturbing thing is, I reckon even if they had videotape footage of him pouring the concrete, somehow they would have come up with some type of scheme that, yes, he had time to go and do this deed on the beach, which is truly, truly remarkable. All right, guys. So just to finish off slide 53, we all know that Jean Couchet, he was deposed on October the 26th. And of course, a big major event occurred in an almost unbelievably timely fashion between after Couchet got deposed and before the deposition of what I call the big guys, the sheriff and the DA. And that, I don't know whether it's a coincidence, but it truly is remarkable that the potential damage that could have occurred if these two were deposed would have been potentially huge. But unfortunately, as history panned out, it never took place. So guys, can we finish? Are we happy with slide 53? We can move on? Yeah, we're all good? Big Jeff?
Yep.
The only thing I would like to remind people is, please check out our previous videos. But
yes.
One of the things that people have said, 36 million, he might have sued for that much, but he probably wouldn't have got that much.
Yes.
Please listen to previous videos at the level of egregiousness.
Think about that, $36 million, that's equivalent to him getting $2 million for every year he was in prison.
Yes. But the reality is, yes. Sorry, Big Jeff.
No, I think that amount, given the level of egregiousness in this case, not unreasonable to consider that he would have gotten a huge sum. And from the perspective of ruining people's lives and pensions who might have been involved in this, even if it were only, it still would have been just as disastrous to them.
No, the money wasn't the issue.
Yes, Billy.
The money was not an issue. The county could have easily paid it off. They had a surplus. They still do to this day. If you look at all their financial records are out there. All you gotta do is look.
Right.
The fact is that they spent $2.5 million to convict Stephen Avery.
To convict him, yes. It would have been cheaper if they just gave it to him in his hand and said, "Go away." But of course, that never panned out in that way. Big Jeff, do you have a comment?
So the reputations, just to follow up on Billy's comments, which are usually very reputations that were more concerned to them probably than the money.
Correct. Bibi, do you have a comment?
Just, they wouldn't have had to pay out $36 million. They wouldn't have had to deal with this lawsuit if they'd have just apologized.
And Kelly McCowney's about to build a $46 million new sheriff.
Right. Yeah. It's just, the whole thing is quite crazy when you think about it. The damage that has been caused and potentially will precipitate later on in the future is just enormous. I mean, here I can see, guys, there's a lot of ego, there's a lot of pride. Kelly, do you have a comment?
I was just going to say that the 36 million wasn't money for Stephen even. It was more of the taking it on their chin and getting that apology. Because to him, it would be priceless to get that apology and them to own up for justice that they did to him.
Yes. Billy.
Penny Bernstein apologized to him, and he forgave her.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
He forgave her.
Yes. That truly was a very moving, and it's amazing that during MAM when they someone was interviewing Stephen, and he even said, "This is not about the money." You know, he was honest enough to say, "All I want to do is have my freedom. This is not about the money." And so, you know, his civil lawsuit lawyers, they put our figure out there, and that figure is, you know, outrageously high. I'm sure if Stephen Avery walked away with $2 or $3 million, he would have been really happy. But as you guys have pointed out, and as our audience is well aware, the most important thing was, I'm sorry, an apology. We destroyed your life, your family's lives for 18 years. We're sorry. But guys, that never came, did it? Who would like to make a comment? Big Jeff.
No, it did not.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll leave that for the moment. So we know that Teresa Horbach was reported missing after Jean Couchet was deposed and before the sheriff and the DA were to be deposed. And guys, we already know how that panned out. The civil lawsuit fell to pieces. Of the events that happened, which we'll discuss later on in another podcast. But if we have a look at slide 54, it's sort of sad and amusing at the same time. So I called it trying to fit in. Now, guys, think about this. You've been in prison for 18 years. They open up the gate and just let you out. How do you think Stephen Avery adapted to coming home? Guys, can we have some comments? How did he adapt? Bibi.
Well, he clearly had a rough adaptation to being home again. And that's why he was living in the little ice shack, because he was having a hard time fitting in with his own family. And
yes.
And he preferred to live in ice shack.
Yes.
When you met Jody, he was still living in the ice shack.
Yes. And don't you think it's rather remiss of the state to release someone after 18 years of imprisonment? Yes, I know he was serving time for what he did to his cousin. That's true. No question about that.
Before he got this, he was supposed to get this check from the state.
Yes.
Local set up a fund for him and actually got people to donate money for him.
Okay. So it's done externally though, Millbilly, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not. It's sort of like a GoFundMe campaign where the population, people are happily to donate this money. Millbilly.
That's why Rowan Johnson let him move into the trailer. And when he moved into it, it wasn't red; it was blue.
Okay.
He put new windows in it. He painted it. He fixed it up. It still needed a new roof, obviously, if you're looking at the new videos. But he did improve the place.
Yes, he did. He did a remarkable. Bibi, do you have a comment?
No. I'm sorry, left it open.
Okay, so it seems, guys, rather remarkable. He spent 18 years living in a cell. And when he came out, he went back into another cell because he probably could not fit in terms of living in a large place with so much space. Mentally, he was still there. Guys, would you agree with that? Is that a fair enough comment?
Well, he does a interview with the news on September 17th, talking about the lawsuit he just took out, and he says it in the interview. He wants them to make it right. They messed up. And he's living in the ice shanty in that video.
Yeah, I saw that. That was completely tragic. Bibi, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just that the ice shack, I think, was like 2 feet bigger than his cell was.
Yes. But I think he had a few more nice amenities in that little ice shack.
Well, maybe a few nicer and maybe a few less, because what about the bathroom?
That's true. That's true. So, good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
What do you mean? He still chose to use the bathroom outside.
Right. Okay. Because that's right. He never wore underwear. Is that correct?
Right. Didn't own a pair.
Well, that's correct.
that is correct.
You don't see any evidence of his underwear. It's either Jody's or Teresa's.
That's correct.
Commando all the way.
And boy, did the investigators collect a lot of underwear. I'll tell you what, they could have run an apparel shop with all the underwear that they collected. Christy, do you have any comment about that? About the fact that he came out and went back into another small place?
I think he had to. I think he couldn't. I mean, he lived in a box for 18 years, and then you let him out of the box, and he didn't know what to do. I think he probably felt more comfortable. You know, it's like swaddling a baby after it's born. You wrap that baby tight so that it feels like it's still in the womb, and I think that's basically what Stephen Avery did moving into this ice shanty.
Yes, but psychologically, it would have been very hard for him to go from a small little box in a prison to a big open house.
Exactly.
And,
my question is...
Yes, Billy.
Why didn't Chuck or Earl offer him a place to stay? No.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, have you met Chuck and Earl? And that's all I'm going to say.
Well, BB, you want to make any comments about that, or just keep that for another day?
We'll say that for another day, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, think about it. Their brother has been missing for 18 years in a prison. And it's rather surprising that they will still allow their own brother to live in such a small confined space. Of course, I'm not privy to what the family did. Christy?
They were pissed off that Stephen was back, and they were now going to have to share the salvage yard 3 ways instead of 2.
Yeah, that's sad. That really is sad. When you have... sorry, Big Jeff. Yes.
Well, I think probably Millbilly has the same comment, but when he was, I'm thinking that he was going to get a large sum of money. He was talking about paying his mother out for the salvage yard. So it would have been splitting it more than 3 ways, right? I mean, Stephen would have been the boss. It would have even been worse.
Now, sorry, Millbilly, do you have a comment?
He was planning to pay off the property.
Yes.
And buy land on Xander Road.
Right. And guys, I think that's pretty obvious that this would have caused major trauma for the brothers, especially the brothers.
They were also pissed at Stephen because he was spending more time fixing up cars to sell on the auto trader.
Yes.
In September of 2004, in that same video he does on the news, you can actually see him working on the van that they're selling, trying to sell when Teresa comes to take the pictures.
Yep, excellent point. In fact, I think the brothers commented that they were rather upset that Stephen was fixing the cars instead of, selling the parts. So it was almost like the boys were probably thinking, well, you've just come out of prison and now what, you're trying to run the place. So would you say that there was a lot of tension in that family?
And Earl didn't like the fact that Stephen and Marie were kind of close.
Right. Oh, yeah. So it's pretty obvious that a lot of tension was taking place when Stephen came home. Guys, would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Millbilly, what do you think?
Yep.
And Lily, did you make a comment as well?
I think that was Sammy.
Oh, Sammy, I apologize. Did you make a comment as well?
I was just...
Oh, I think we lost Sammy. What about you, Lily? Do you have a comment?
The family, besides Ma and Pa, were not happy that he was home.
Well,
none of them.
Yeah.
I really feel bad for Steve. He has had quite a run in life, and it's not been a good run.
Yes. In fact, the expression that we use in Australia, I don't know about in America, he was the whipping boy. He copped it. He copped it from all sides for some unknown strange reason. He copped a lot of negative attention, both from within and from without. So he was trapped. He was trapped no matter what he did. Sammy, did you have a comment?
No, I was just agreeing. Right. You know, I feel like this was his way of readapting to everything between him being used to being in a cell and readapting to the family members, the attitudes between the family and the public.
Yes.
You know, and I really believe that his way of changing how he operated in that salvage yard was more to do about a positive change.
Excellent. And apparently, when he was in when he was in prison, did he actually work on cars, or was that when he was in prison when he got arrested or charged with Teresa Halbach's murder? Because apparently he worked on cars when he was in prison. Millbilly, do you know?
I don't know nothing about that.
I remember hearing that, but I don't remember which time.
That's right. Isn't this ironical? We're talking about which prison stretch he did that sort of it just seems so bizarre, but apparently he did work on cars, and he was very keen to get his nephews to help him. Millbilly, do you have a comment?
Yeah. Brendan and Blaine helped him all the time.
Yes Interesting, isn't it?
They actually helped him clean the van out.
Yep. Very, very interesting. I think he had a very good relationship with Brendan, and unfortunately, we know how that panned out in the future. But guys, if I could just make a further comment on slide 54. You know, to me, on the right-hand side, this represents a slice in time. The man on the left clearly probably has never gone to prison, lived a free life, is a professional, works in a shop. And look at poor Stephen Avery. Does he look comfortable or uncomfortable in his shirt? Guys, he's got a comment. Millbilly.
Yeah, he looks happy.
Yes, he's definitely smiling. He looks like one of the guys. He looks like Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top. But look at the contrast in that picture. It's amazing, isn't it? He's a man, and that's why I call trying to fit in. He's trying to buy new clothes, trying to look good for himself, and he's got a big bushy beard, short hair. That's how he looked like when he was in prison. But you'll see that he tried to change, which is remarkable. He really tried to be positive. Bibi, do you have a comment?
Yeah, there was a beauty shop, I believe it was, in town that gave him a makeover as a gift.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, that's why he started looking. After his hair grew out a little bit, they gave him a makeover. And that's where you get the more stylish looking Steve then toward the end of his freedom.
I think it's a positive thing that his family owned the JR, because then when he did come home, he had a job right away.
Correct. He can get his hands dirty per se, do something, because if he
I don't think this drama happened family until after September of 2004.
Right. Okay. Yep. Very, very good point. And, I think for our listeners out there, I think a future podcast, Millbilly, involving that car fire will be very, very interesting, because I think that particular story has got long fingers, long threads. Everything is connected together. right? So it'll be very interesting to have a look at that very closely. So, guys, are we happy with slide 54?
Well, there's a lot of names in that old firefighter case that are here in this 05 case.
Yes. Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence.
No. And I was just going to make the comment, sorry, guys, on slide 53, which is a lot of the people that were deposed. Well, they just happened to bob up again later on. And it's amazing, if you look at the cases, it is the same players that appear all the time. Guys, would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
BB?
Yeah, that's where part of the problem comes in.
Yes, and that really did cause a big problem later on.
It worked into a huge problem, yes.
For sure, no question about that. Christy, do you have any comments at all? All good?
Not on this. Yep, we're
All
good.
good. Okay, beautiful. All right, guys, if we can move on to slide 55, we're progressing really well in our podcast, and I hope the listeners are enjoying it and finding it interesting. Please do not hesitate to ask questions. We'll try and answer them as soon as we can. But if we look at slide 55, this is truly remarkable for many, many reasons. Guys, who would like to make a comment about slide 55, where we see a Stephen Avery right next to the suits? Christy.
I watched
this live on TV when it happened.
Oh,
okay, there it is. Never mind.
Yeah. Hold your horses, Billy. Christy, what do you think?
Oh, I was going to tell you that I couldn't see it, that it was on slide 53 still. But
can you see?
I'm good now.
Can you see slide 55?
I'm good now. Yep.
Beautiful.
There's a room with them.
Oh yeah. Now, who's got a comment on slide 55? Big Jeff?
Yeah, it seems to me that at least to Stephen, he must have had the appearance in his mind that something was happening with regard to his desired goal, right? That this was getting attention at the political level, and that's what he wanted to do about the corruption that put him in.
Yes. Look, yeah, guys, do you really think Stephen Avery knew what was about to happen in terms of the political fallout? Do you reckon he had any idea? Big Jeff.
I would guess that
I'm sure his attorneys definitely.
Yes.
Definitely informed him like what was about to take place.
Right. Okay. BB, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure people would have pointed out to him the implications that all of this would have had.
Yes.
Like nobody said, at least his attorneys definitely would have informed him of how this would all play out.
Yes, yeah. But the amazing thing is, do you think Stephen Avery ever thought he was going to be standing with all these dignitaries in suits?
No.
Yeah, he looks like a fish out of water. But clearly, this was big. This was going to be a big political hammer in which they were going to use Steve Avery as an example. Billy, do you have a comment?
As far as depositions, some people say that the depositions were canceled because Stephen wasn't able to be present. He wasn't present for any of them.
Right, okay.
Because, for a fact, if he had been, when Colburn shows up on the 3rd and talks to him, he would have known exactly who he was.
Right.
But he can't even remember what police department it was at first when he interviewed.
Yeah, very, very good point. Very good point. All right then. So guys, I think we agree that this was a fairly momentous occasion. And I'm telling you right now, my personal opinion is this photograph would have sent shivers down the spines of the sheriff, the DA and everybody else. What do you reckon, guys? Do you agree or not agree? Kelly, do you have a comment?
Just the fact that he's like now the pin-up boy for all this misconduct, and they would be looking at that going, oh my, this is really bigger than what we thought was going to become of it. So he really was like the limelight of this corruption and this injustice in the first place.
Yep. Fantastic point. Fantastic point. This would have been a dream come true, because they're now going to use this wrongful conviction case. They're going to use it as a political hammer, political muscle. This was big, momentous. Billy, did you say that you saw this on TV as it happened?
Yeah, I've seen everything from day one.
Oh, incredible!
My mom watched all the news, so
yes,
I watched it with her too. So
yes, and now sorry, Big Jeff, do you have a comment?
I do, and it's typically the way these political footballs tend to work. I assume that this picture was taken after the Peg L report was released, where no wrongful nothing wrongful was found.
Yes.
And so it's not atypical for what the other political side to pick up the ball.
Yes. Yep.
And now the original political side has two choices.
This is when
they can either push back or on the bandwagon, and they were jumping on the bandwagon. So that was that something needed to happen.
Correct. Billy.
Doyle was gonna sign the Avery bill, and then that's why he was here on the podium next to all of them.
Yes, no, there's no question about it. That is a very, very powerful image. When you consider that Stephen was in prison for 18 years, wrongfully convicted, and here he is in this photograph with the heavy boys, the political might, the political muscle. Guys, if we go to slide 56, and I think this is remarkable in that we actually see a transformation taking place. Now, you look at the time that he spent in prison, and you look at the bottom photograph on the left-hand side, you can see puffy eyes. He looks terrible. And yet, look, when he appears in the media, he is clean cut. He looks great. To me, guys, he's getting his life in order. Who's got a comment about that?
Just that's just part of the makeover.
Yes.
Yeah. That's where the makeover comes in, with the slicker new look to him. So,
yes. Yeah. Yes, but he actually does look good. He looks healthy, doesn't he?
He's starting to feel better. You could tell. Getting used to things, adjusting.
You got to remember what he looked like when he got released. He had a giant beard.
Yes. Correct. And guys, for those who are listening to the podcast, in some of our earlier podcasts, we actually go through those pictures and images. And you're right, Billy. It's a huge, huge contrast. Look, credit to the man for moving on in his life, wanting to do something big, really big for the state as well. And I like to finish with a comment. Now, how ironical is this? Look at all the microphones next to him. Look at all the microphones, all the different media outlets, and how ironical it's the same media companies that Ken Kratz spoke to when he did that infamous press conference. Do you notice the contrast? In this situation, he's giving a message of hope to, the population, and then of course the devastation that comes later on when Ken Kratz gets the limelight. I just thought the contrast was amazing. Guys, do we have any other comments? Big Jeff.
I would describe the look on his face and the slide 56 as one of confidence. I mean, it can be very intimidating to be on the news. I've never been on the news, but if I thought, a large number of people were watching me sticking a microphone in my face, he looks very confident. It looks as if he's being questioned. He's sort of taking in what the question is and processing and thinking. And he's very confident in his position.
Excellent point.
Well, you're almost there. All you got to do is show your face, Jeff.
Yes.
To the millions watching the podcast right now.
No, that's a very, very good point. It's also the impression I get, guys, from the look on his face. It's a man of confidence. It's a man of, I gotcha. It's a man that says, I know that things are on my side now. The tables have turned. You can see where things went wrong, the targeting, all that personal grief and hurt. Hammer time is coming. Guys, would you agree with that? Christy, do you have a comment? Yeah.
Yep. I agree with you. I agree with everything you just said. It's definitely. I can't say what I really think he's thinking because it wouldn't be appropriate. But yeah, it's I got you now. You're never going to do this to anybody else. Right. You're going to pay for what you did to me. That's the look I see. The top one. When he's arrested for Penny Bernstein, the top left, that's holy crap, how did I get here?
Yes.
Then the bottom one right there is, okay, I'm free. What do I do now? And this one is, I got you. Look at all these people listening to me. You've made me out to be a nobody, and now I'm a somebody.
Unbelievable. He climbed to the top of the mountain, basically, but we must give him credit for doing this, for coming forward to seeing justice. He said many, many times, it's not about the money.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the system, correcting the system. And oh boy, we know what happened to him. Christy.
It was never about the money for him. It was never about the money. Never.
Yeah. I mean, he, as we discussed in previous podcasts, he lived a fairly frugal life. You know what I mean? He wasn't extravagant. There wasn't the money around. So he knew. I mean, he had 5 children. 5! And he lived within his means, right? And by putting him in prison, it destroyed him. It destroyed him. It destroyed his family. So now the look that I see, Christy, is one of retribution. Now it's my turn. You know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
Am I speaking out of turn or what?
No, that's exactly what that look is. That's exactly what that look is.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Guys, do we have any additional comments?
Nope,
okay.
I'm good.
Oh, Mill Billy, all good? Beautiful.
All good.
All right. Now, if we go to slide 57, I find this truly, truly remarkable. And I'll read it out for our listeners. In December 2003, the Avery Task Force begins hearings to review police and prosecutorial practices statewide. Stephen is the first to testify. And guys, if you see these clips in MAM, they're very, very moving. When he described what had happened to him, what had happened to his family, what had happened to his children, he too became a victim of the state, a victim of a smear campaign in which they were targeting Stephen Avery. And the consequences to him personally were devastating. And to the right-hand side, this was remarkable. Everyone stood up and clapped him. Right? The contrast is just mind-blowing. So moving that everyone stood up. All these guys in suits and ladies in suits all stood up and congratulated him for what he had done. Millbilly, do you have any additional comments?
Everything he said that happened in 85 was true.
Yes. Yes. Unbelievable. Guys, do we have any additional comments? Big Jeff, do you have a comment?
No,
All good? All good? All right. So, guys, Kelly, do you have a comment?
I think it would be more of the relief as well. Like, exactly like Neil Billy said, everything he said in 85 was true. So to have everyone applaud you and listen to you, it's that, oh my God, I'm finally being listened to, and that relief of just, oh my God, finally they're listening. And I think that's really powerful.
It is. And it's remarkable that he waited for so long for the system to catch up to him to say, yep, you are indeed innocent. Millbilly, any comments?
And the funny thing was, he's released. They dropped all the charges, and he was not a felon at all. Released, clean record.
Yep.
Man.
Yep, that's a very, very good point, because that came back to bite him, right? The felon charge.
Yes.
Yes. We'll talk about that in a moment. All right, guys. Do we have any additional comments? We're all we're sort of ecstatic for him. You know, it's amazing when you say that you are innocent of these horrendous charges and no one believes you, and then by a miracle of God, you are then shown to be innocent. Zoe, do you have a comment?
Oh, yeah, I wanted to ask if we maybe should tell the people about the Avery bill.
Oh, okay. Millbilly, do you have any comments?
Nope, not right now, nope.
Okay. Zoe, all good? Okay.
Yes.
No worries. All right. Now, I think this, if we go to progress to slide number 58, to me, this was just, it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. And that is the union and getting together of the victim, the so-called victim, Penny, who was terribly assaulted back in 1985, and Stephen, who was exonerated, and he was completely innocent. And look, this had a deep effect on Penny as well. And some of you may have seen, if you're listening on the podcast, Penny, actually, there was like a little mini documentary where Penny spoke about the trials and tribulation and the pressure that she felt about the confession. You know, the signing of the confession where she couldn't see the confession. And it truly is heartwarming that Stephen Avery forgave Penny and said, it's not your fault. It's what the state did to him, what the police did to him, which is truly, I think, a testimony to his character. Guys, do we have any comments about that on slide 58? Christy.
Not really particularly about the slide, but definitely about Penny Bernston.
Yes, please.
I mean, the state did it to her too. She had to relive that attack twice. She thought the man that did it to her was behind bars, and then lo and behold, 18 years later, you find out everything that happened to you that night was a farce, and was the police department or the sheriff's department just trying to pin this on somebody, just trying to close the case. And she had to relive that again and know that because she couldn't identify him, she allowed another woman. He raped more people after her.
Yes, he did. Yeah, Gregory Allen did. Correct. He was, I think he was free to terrorize people for an additional 10 years, which is truly remarkable. Bibi, do you have a comment?
Yes, Penny had said how she had a big struggle with having put the blame on Steve to know that that was wrong. She really struggled. It caused her a lot of mental grief.
Yeah.
Yes.
It would have as well. Now, guys, if I can say sorry, Millbilly, do you have a comment?
I'm surprised she didn't try to sue the police department too.
As a civil suit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she was receiving phone calls after Stephen was arrested, and they ignored it.
Yeah, that's just completely shameful. So it's pretty obvious that Gregory Allen was stalking Penny. Had to be stalking her because he got her phone number.
Most definitely.
Yeah, Big Jeff, do you have a comment?
I do. That even in the Peg L document, they report that
Yes,
part of Gregory Allen's method of operation (MO) that he would perform an attack on a person and then he would
yes.
find them somehow. How we got their phone number, I don't know, but
Yeah, we better not go there, right, Jeff? I think I know what you're alluding to. It's pretty disturbing if that is indeed the case. But
how did he get Penny's
Jeff.
phone number?
Yeah.
How did he get Penny's phone number? And he
I have no idea.
YMCA. He was watching her.
He was definitely stalking Penny, no question about that. But look, I think this is credit to Stephen for having the courage to forgive Penny, and then he was the better man. He realized he got put in prison for a long period of time, wrongfully as it turned out, but he forgave, and that truly is remarkable. Now, just one thing, and we can discuss this. Somebody said that Penny had to go over this all over again because they found the person who actually attacked her. Well, potentially, what's going to happen. If Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey are released in the future, the Hallbuck family may have to go or likely go through this again themselves if a killer confesses or they find new evidence, whatever. So can you see deja vu? It's going to happen again.
They've already found new evidence.
Okay.
That's why she's got the motion for ineffective assistance of counsel.
Yep. Okay. Very good point. BB, do you have a comment?
Yeah, it's kind of like their blueprint.
Yes. Yeah, it's you wouldn't read about it in a horror story, but it could be happening again,
Yeah.
which is truly disturbing.
It's very similar, so it's kind of like their blueprint, their MO.
Yes, yes. Christy, do you have a comment?
Same script, different cast. Some of the same players, some repeat players.
Yep.
Correct.
No,
correct.
All the same players were involved.
No, some of the cast is different. The Hallbacks instead of Penny Bernstein.
No, I'm talking about the police side of it.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, no question about that, which is truly remarkable and disturbing. Now, guys, if we progress to slide 59, because I'm just conscious of the time, slide 59 is basically, and I'll read out a little portion, and I think it is very important. So for the 18 years that he was locked up in prison, the state wanted to give him $25,000. And in the article it says, I'll read it, for 18 years, lock you behind bars, ruin your family, deprive you of all dignity, and then give you the equivalent of a new car. That's so woefully inadequate. Guys, would you agree?
And he took that money and he bought a new.
Yeah, yes. Is that when he bought himself a new car?
Yes, truck, right?
Yeah, the truck. The truck.
F-350, yes.
Yes. And clearly, people were quite shocked about the fact that they only wanted to give him $25,000. So basically, as you can see here, the state legislature began drafting the so-called Avery bill, and they came to the agreement that they were going to pay Stephen $450,000 in the wrongful conviction compensation. So no matter what happened, guys, he was guaranteed that $450,000. Is that correct? That was on the table.
Yeah, that was tax free. He was going to get a check for $450,000.
Yes, he was going to get a check for $450,000, which was separate to his civil lawsuit. Is that correct?
And $50,000 of it was going to go.
Yes. Yes. So they agreed on that total. Christy, do you have a comment?
they came to that total because when they found out it was going to be 25,000, they said that it should be 25,000 a year, and that was the money that he was paid out and used to pay for sharing and doing.
Well, you sounded like a robot, but I think if for every year he was in prison, they're going to give him 25,000. So that's how they came. Yeah, that's how they came up with the figure of 450,000. And on the same picture, they all agreed that the amount of money that they were originally going to give Stephen was actually quite embarrassing. And you can see the image here. Stephen, all he wanted to do was get married and have children. He wanted to settle with Jody and have a life, start a life again. But boy, I tell you what, his life and everybody else's life was going to go into a tailspin very, very quickly. And if we have a look at slide 60, we're nearly approaching the end of our podcast for today. You can see that the bill that came up with a bill with his name on there, and that was truly remarkable. Stephen Avery would have never thought that he was going to have a bill named specifically after him. Guys, do we have any comments about that? Big Jeff.
A couple of comments, and I think Zoe. This is one of the things that Zoe was asking about before about the Avery bill. The one thing that I recall about the Avery bill is the preservation of DNA evidence, and
yes.
And interestingly, though, given the picture that's being held up, there are certainly aspects of the Avery bill. The people would remember that picture from our podcast.
Yes.
Lineup and the fact that Avery was the only one in the picture.
Yes, and the live
lineup. I wasn't aware if anything having to do with that aspect of the case was addressed in the bill.
Yeah, that I don't know. Does anyone on the panel have a better understanding of the bill that was passed in his name? Anybody got any information? Mill Billy.
It was about to help a lot of people.
Yes. Yep, good point. Zoe, do you have a comment?
Yeah, well, it was to improve the state's criminal justice system.
Yes.
And prevent this from happening again.
Yeah, BB, do you have a comment?
Well, and it wasn't actually passed in his name because they changed the name of it right before it passed.
Yes,
they expunged his name from it. Even before, I believe it happened slightly before Teresa went missing.
Yes. Yeah, very good point. Zoe, do you have an additional comment?
Yeah, the Avery bill got renamed into Criminal Justice Reform Bill.
Right, and I believe after Stephen got arrested for the murder of Teresa Halbach, they actually took his picture down from the website.
Yes.
Yes, they no longer wanted to be associated with him. And it's just remarkable, the irony of when it suited them, he was a superstar. But when he was accused of this horrible crime, they abandoned him. Completely just all abandoned him. They didn't want to associate themselves with him, which is truly remarkable. Okay, so guys, if we have a look at 61, this is when it gets starting to get really serious. This is about the civil lawsuit. Now, I know that we're going back and forward in sort of like in the chronology, but now the big boys were going to be deposed, the sheriff and also the DA. And, the amount of information that started to come out was extremely damaging for the sheriff and also for the DA. Guys, do we have any comments about that? We all good?
It's like I said earlier.
Yes.
Those two were going to be held personally responsible.
Yep. And their insurance companies were not going to pay for any damages. Is that correct? It would have been a personal liability?
That's right.
Okay. Big Jeff.
Oh, just one odd comment is that a lot of times you can tell how a newspaper feels about a person by the picture that they use of.
Yes.
Looking at that picture that they used of Stephen Avery, I just don't get the impression that they had necessarily had a favorable opinion of him. Like, really, does this guy, is he reaching a little bit too far?
And that's from the Milwaukee Journal.
Right. Right. And it's interesting that particular journalist, Tom, he wrote a lot of articles about the case. He clearly was following the case very, very closely. And you're right. We've been talking about this in additional podcasts. The perception that you put out in society is very, very important. Millbilly, do you have a comment?
It's just, it all depends on who you talk to in the journalist system.
Yes.
Like
Yep.
Chad Keller, he was on Avery's side the whole time.
Yep. Very, very good point.
Sat down and did the interview with him.
Yes, very, very good point. It's interesting the attitude of the media. Some were pro the state, pro the sheriff, and others were more sympathetic towards Stephen Avery. So very, very interesting. Okay. Millbilly, sorry.
Chad Keller was actually the first reporter to point out that the car was found on Avery's property, but that is not Stephen Avery's property.
Right. Right.
Only thing he owned was a truck.
Correct. Yeah. Unbelievable. So with the civil lawsuit in full swing, when the investigation took place, guys, if we have a look at slide number 62, this is when things started to go really, really bad. And of course, with all the paperwork and all the documents and all the evidence that was coming in, it was not looking good for both the sheriff and the DA. So, guys, are we quite happy with that? No comments?
I think we've beat that horse to death.
Yes, we have. So we can actually move on quite nicely onto slide 63. And this really is remarkable because it states here that Gregory Allen was arrested for a sexual assault in Brown County. And guess who? Andrew Colburn receives the call about an inmate confession. So someone clearly confessed to the crime that was done in 1985. And does Colburn actually do anything with that information? Guys, who would like to comment?
No, he doesn't. He says that he did, but I call bullshit.
Yeah, right. So here is Gregory Allen who confessed. Someone must have rung up Colburn and gave him that information. Now, Millbilly, are you pretty well convinced that he sat on that information or he told someone? Millbilly.
I believe he told Tom Kucherick.
The sheriff.
Yes.
Tom Kucherick.
I'm guaranteed he did.
Yep. Bibi, do you have a comment?
It just that there's no way to tell for sure because he doesn't pull the paperwork out for another 9 years.
Yes, that is correct. Yes. So we've got this remarkable thing. And if I could just comment, Colburn did exactly the same thing in the Teresa Horbach case. He was everywhere. There's no question about that. Colburn was everywhere on the Avery salvage yard, and he also was at Cuss Road as well. But his contribution, some contribution, was only a couple of paragraphs in the entire CASO report. Guys, is that true?
Yes. And he's not even mentioned.
Yes.
In the report. And so they bring up the fact that he was instructed to file a report 8 months after the fact of him talking to Stephen Avery.
Yep.
All you have is their search warrant affidavit where Link, and they don't even mention Link, they just mention Remaker going there. They leave Link names out.
Yes. Yes, they do. They do. But it's entirely keeping with the way Colburn works. He's extremely slow in transmitting information and writing it up. So he obviously did it here, and he obviously did it in the Teresa Horbach case.
Oh yeah,
Millbilly.
it is intentionally done.
Yep. Big Jeff.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to point out about to amplify the way Colburn works comment that Millbilly said was,
yes,
Colburn was the shift commander, which means that he is the one who would order other officers around, essentially tell them where to go.
Yes.
When it comes to getting a call to follow up on the missing person call at the Avery residence, who does he send to go? Who does he decide needs to go to that shortly after he himself has been deposed?
Yes. Yeah.
Any conflict there? No, nothing to see here, folks.
Yeah. Oh, look, the amount of we can spend a whole nother podcast just talking about conflicts. It was massive, and during and we'll discuss this during the trial. They didn't seem to care that there were conflicts. The attitude was, well, I needed an officer on the ground. We got who we had to get, and that included people that should never have stepped foot on that place. Millbilly, any comments?
Just no. I have lots of.
Yes. All right. Big Jeff.
Which pair finds the most evidence by far out of any of the police?
Well, yeah, it's the MTSO, and it's from people. It's from people that should never ever be there. I mean, we've got. Let's have a look. We got magic keys. We got magic bullets.
Magic car.
Magic car blood. As well. Yeah, magic blood. We've got the whole
magic
lot.
License plate.
Yes, we have the whole lot for sure. So guys,
magic underwear.
Oh yeah, and there's plenty of that as well. There's plenty of that as well. If we have a look at slide 64, this truly is remarkable because Stephen Avery is released due to the use of DNA evidence, which exonerates Steve Avery. And on September the 12th, let me get this right, but does Colburn then write a report one day after Stephen Avery gets released?
Yeah, that's correct. September 11th, Stephen Avery is released. September 12th, Colburn files a report about receiving the call from Brown County.
Yeah.
About they might have the wrong guy in custody because somebody just confessed.
Yes. Remarkable.
And who requested that he write that report? He didn't write it of his own volition. Isn't that correct?
No. And is it true that the sheriff put that report in his safe? Yep. Is there any?
Yes.
In the in the safe. Okay. Let's have a look over here. We've actually had a look at slide 65 previously, in which the individuals were deposed. And as you can see, the two most important people were not deposed because of what happened in the missing person case with Teresa. So both the sheriff and also the DNA were not deposed.
Well,
yes, Millbilly.
The night Stephen Avery is arrested,
yes,
Jerry Pagel calls and asks for Peg Lawton Slaughter's phone number. And the secretary or whoever answered the phone, wherever he called, says, "Oh, I think Ken has it."
Oh, no.
Ken Kratz.
Oh, no.
So the next day, his deposition is canceled. On the 12th of November,
yes,
Dennis Jacobs calls the Calumet County Sheriff's Department dispatch, asking to talk to Wiegert or Pagel because he just talked to his neighbor. Well, guess who his neighbor is? Tom Kukurek.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, dear.
It just doesn't end.
No, it doesn't. It's remarkable that the Stephen Avery family was accused of all sorts of nasty things, including incestuous behavior. And yet, what do we see here? They're all they're all in the same boat. They're all in the same. They're all together. And this can't be a coincidence. This is truly just remarkable. So, Millbilly, what you're saying is that steps were immediately put in place to stop the depositions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
100%,
remarkable.
100%.
Yes, BB, do you have a comment? Yeah.
Conveniently. Everything is always very convenient for them.
Yes, yes. Big Jeff, do you have a comment?
With regard to stopping the depositions, where is the presumption of innocence? Right?
Yes.
There is none.
A year later, if he's to be presumed innocent, why should those depositions stop? Why?
Yes. Yep, that truly is remarkable. One has to wonder, Stephen Avery didn't even face a trial at that stage, and there was no presumption of innocence. They got on the front foot very, very quickly, and they stopped the depositions. That can't be a fluke. BB, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I don't understand why that would negate that.
Yes.
It's entirely two different cases.
It didn't cancel the depositions. They were rescheduled, and then they never happened.
Right.
Yeah, but they wound up negated, and they shouldn't have.
Yes.
That should have carried on, because that has nothing to do with this.
The orders came down from Peg.
Yep. And, if you're going to do something like this, it has to come from the top, doesn't it? It can't come from down below. It has to come all the way up to the top.
And on November 4th, the night of November 4th, Deb Strauss calls in the Calumet County Dispatch offering her assistance because she's got a lot of dirt on Stephen Avery.
Yes. And she was one of the investigators, correct?
They bring her right in.
Yes.
Deb Strauss is one of the investigators whose information they used to put together Peg Allen's report, yes.
So she was sent there by Peg. And another thing, there's a dispatch call. Somebody calls in and said that they talked to a officer that works for Calumet County named Deb. And the dispatcher's like, we don't have a Deb that works here. She's like, oh, well, she told me she worked for them. Strange.
So she was probably referring to Deb Strauss, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I mean, this whole case is completely bizarre. But you see, from Peg's perspective, if she wrote a report and said, there's nothing to see here, guys, how do you think the Attorney General would have felt with this civil lawsuit happening? It would have been very good.
I just don't see how people they obviously framed why in the hell wouldn't they do it again?
Oh yeah. Yep, and we're gonna find out that they did.
This time they had way more to gain.
Yes.
Last time they were just getting back to him for a friend. This time it was personal.
It has all the hallmarks of a vendetta, a big vendetta. And you're right, in the Penny's case and with Sandra Morris, it was putting Stephen away for a long period of time. In this particular case, it was self-preservation, right? It was literally self-preservation, because had the civil lawsuit gone ahead, then potentially the tsunami wave of other civil lawsuits would have followed, and it would have had a drastic effect on the whole state, for sure. Guys, do you agree with that? A Big Jeff.
I do agree, and we can never forget the hair evidence that was used against Stephen as well.
You mean initially in the 1985 case?
Yes. Correct. We could say something about how that's been proven as junk science, but that shivers down Quantico as well. So this not only had potential repercussions at the state level, but people who had been convicted using the same type of hair analysis, which was debunked, potentially a federal case against the FBI for supporting it as a valid way to identify assailants and whatnot.
That's correct. That is correct. And the FBI were extremely worried. They were extremely worried because there were potentially thousands of people who were put in prison because of their hair evidence. And we now know that is complete junk science. Millbilly.
Well, there's also other cases that people would start questioning even more, like the Ricky Hosletter case.
Yes. Yes, correct. The spotlight basically would have been put on the sheriff and the way the department ran. And, the disturbing thing is, according to Peg, nothing wrong was done. So now this was a backdoor way to get in to investigate how the MTSO operated, how the sheriff operated. And if we have a look at slide 66, guys, we will finish on slide 67, or we'll be here for another 4 hours. But the information that was coming out was very, very damaging. It looked like all along that both the sheriff and the DA were well aware that the perpetrator was indeed Gregory Allen and not Stephen Avery. And it's remarkable that even though the sheriff and other people in the county were told about Gregory Allen, the response was, we already have the right guy. And so the remarkable thing is, even though Colburn had received a telephone call that potentially could have led to Stephen Avery's exoneration years ago, many years went by before anything was done about it, which was truly, truly remarkable. So, guys, do we have any comments about that?
Mark Rohr's deposition is the best.
Yes.
The investigator asked him. He says, "Well, what do you want me to say? It's all right there."
Yes. It truly was remarkable. Guys, BB, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just Rohr during he had like the worst facial tick going on. He was downright twitchy while he was making those statements too.
Yes. Basically, he got caught out. They all got caught out, but the way their body language went about, the way they expressed themselves were truly remarkable. The DA was nervous as hell, whereas someone like Jean Couchet, he really couldn't give a damn. So, guys, what we'll do, because I'm conscious of the time, we're going to finish on slide 67. And slide 67 really just shows the chronology of events that took place. And as you can see here, we'll look at the last bits and pieces. We know that the depositions had taken place. Teresa Halbach is apparently last seen on October the 31st. On November the 1st, the Avery bill passes the state legislature, and on November the 3rd, Teresa Halbach is reported missing. So, guys, we can see that this truly is a remarkable series of events, because it just so happens that Teresa Halbach, where does she go? She goes to the Avery salvage yard, right, to see Mr. Avery, who just happens to be having a civil lawsuit against the MTSO. And remarkably, Teresa Halbach is reported missing right smack between before the DA and the sheriff are about to be deposed. Guys, do we have any comments about that? All fluke, all a miracle? BB.
Convenient.
Yes.
And also, I'd like to point out that the woman who did Teresa Habach's job before her
yes.
was a DOJ agent.
Right. Yes.
Suspicious?
Yes.
Nah, nothing to see.
Yeah. Yes, you're right.
I have believed. I know for a fact that Manitowoc was watching them and trying to get them on anything they could.
Yeah.
They were probably trying. It's just too coincidental.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And the impression I get is that they were trying to do a sting on Stephen Avery to get him, to nab him, to arrest him. And boy, we can speculate a lot, but we'll have a look at that in another podcast. But just to finish this up, it's a remarkable set of circumstances that led to the situation where we're currently now at. So it's a natural break in our podcast, and that is when we come back, we'll be talking about Teresa Halbach and what transpired and how things spiraled out of control for Stephen, for his family, and then, of course, later on for his nephew Brendan, which is another tragic story in itself. So, guys, do we have any final comments before we close the podcast? Millbilly.
Nothing really.
Okay.
Thanks, Avery.
BB.
Maybe we should have a follow-up with if there's been anything noteworthy in the audience.
Yes.
Girls?
Do we have some comments?
Lily, Sammy?
Actually, no. We've either answered or we don't know the answer and we've let them know.
Right.
So
okay.
I think everybody's okay.
Hazel had a question. And,
oh yeah, Hazel
what I
did.
Was I posted up a link to look, explore. She was asking, we were talking, and then she was asking about included recorded interview, and so I wasn't exactly certain what specifically she was asking about. So what I did was post up on our chat in this video where everyone can go look and kind of scour this bill.
Yes.
And see for themselves.
All right. No, fantastic. And what we'll do, we'll have a look at questions and things like that, and we can always come back on our next podcast to answer them if there's anything outstanding. So, guys, are we quite happy with the podcast so far? We're all good?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Well, look, guys, I think we will end it there. We'll end it at slide 67 and we will pick it up. And I realize that we've also got a very interesting tweet from Ken Kratz that we can discuss later on, because I think it'll follow quite nicely with the next podcast. So, guys, I would like to thank our panel tonight for their excellent contribution. I'd like to thank everyone for listening in and for their comments and support. And finally, I'd like to state, guys, if you haven't already done so, please have a look at Millbilly's YouTube channel. Millbilly's done a series of excellent YouTube clips regarding the photographs, the newly released photographs. I think there were Millbilly 2008 new pictures.
Yes, a lot, but there's still lots out there that we have.
Of course. All right,
well,
guys.
And he's also,
yes.
Millbilly's also done the phone calls too.
Of course. And guys, I invite you to please have a look at Millbilly's excellent YouTube channel. He's done superb analysis with other members, of course, looking at various aspects of the case. And we welcome, of course, on our panel with his knowledge and wisdom. Thank you very much, guys. And we will catch you, hopefully, with another cup of coffee or tea next week. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.
Later.
Have a good Sunday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.